Welcome to the GTN show.
Yeah, this week we are discussing carbon shoe stack height and the rules for them within triathlon.
Yep, and pro triathletes doing obstacle course racing and pro ultra runners doing triathlon.
Results from the $100,000 race at Clash Daytona.
Yeah, and of course the hot topic at the moment, will the Ironman World Championships for 2023 be split across 2 days and 2 locations in Kona and Nice?
Okay, let's start by taking a look at a few of the things we've spotted online over the last week or so. And we saw Joe Skipper dressed in a slightly different kit to what we're used to seeing him in. That of Deliveroo. So he's decided in his off-season to do a little bit of apparently earning some extra cash. I think it was more a bit of fun, but he's put here, times are tough. So this off-season, I've decided to take a job as a Deliveroo driver. I can assure you, no one will get your takeaway as quick as me. Hit me up if you need a takeaway collecting. I mean, it'd be quite random, wouldn't it, if suddenly Joe turned up at your door with your pizza?
Well, if you want your KFC quickly, you'd be the one to call, wouldn't it? I do actually remember we were filming with Joe. He had all the Deliveroo kit there a good year or so ago, and that's because Laura, his partner, was doing it on the side of her job for a bit of fun, for exercise and earning a bit of cash. And he did say at the time, maybe I should challenge some pro athletes and we all race to see how many we can do in a day. So yeah. There he goes.
Space, yeah.
Also, we saw Flora Duffy being knighted, or how do you say, a dame?
I think it is nice.
Do you say knighted as a dame?
I don't know.
But you don't get a knight?
You don't get damed, do you?
Dame. Anyway, she's got a DBE, so it's, I mean, there's so many words in it. Is it the most excellent of the British Empire, something along those lines? God, there's so many words in these things.
I don't know, but it's...
She's a dame anyway.
Yeah, it's a real honour, and it's very cool to see Flora collecting that. And it just happened to be just days after she'd become world champion for the 4th time, so she must be on such a high.
Yeah.
But very cool to see her in the UK as well. This next one we spotted of an ultra runner moving into triathlon. Whether this was just a one-off, I'm not sure, but Lucy Bartholomew, who is an Australian, very successful pro ultra runner, well, she was competing in the Ironman Western Australia in a time, and finished in a time of 10 hours 25:27.
Yeah, very impressive. Placed 4th in her age group and 27th female overall.
I wonder if that's given her a Kona slot, or if she'll be going to Kona. Anyway, that's another. Let's not open that can of worms just yet.
No, that's very, very impressive. Also spotted this race where a couple of Salomon athletes ended up piggybacking one another over the finish line. It was the Golden Trail Series final, which was, well, it's quite funny considering some of the stuff that's happened in triathlon with disqualifications.
Yeah, you can't hold hands, but it was just a really lovely shot of them getting to the finish line and carrying each other over. Just a real team effort, which was cool to see. This time of year, we're seeing athletes doing some other random things, like we're seeing Joe on doing Deliveroo. Well, Lisa Norden has given a go at obstacle course racing, and she won a toilet.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that's all about. But yeah, she won her first OCR race. I believe it was Bauhaus, who are one of her sponsors, organised the race. And clearly their prizes were items from their shop, like toilets. I
mean, you'd hope you didn't travel there by public transport, wouldn't you, to take your prize home with that one? Carrying a loo on the train on the way home or something. She did say it's the first time she's ever won a loo in her career.
Well, toilets can be quite expensive, so...
And quite useful.
Yeah, and I know she was doing a house up recently, so yeah. Anyway, moving on to maybe more meaningful news. Ironman and the 2-day format, which has been controversial the last couple of weeks. Will it be split over 2 different locations? Rumours have been flying around. And there is some speculation, although not confirmed, that it will be in Kona and in Nice, with the women's race taking place in Kona and the men's race in Nice. But as we say, not confirmed, and Ironman have said they'll be announcing for sure in January what's going on. And they haven't named a location either.
I mean, the only thing that at the moment that is certain is women are in Kona in 2023 and men are not. So that is the factual part here. And then, yes, there's a few athletes who are jumping on the speculation wagon.
Yeah. First up, Sebastian Kienle said, when I heard the news that there will be no professional men's race in 2023 in Kona, No, just kidding. It's him, sat obviously in a jacuzzi. He said, I really feel for Jan. I would love to have seen him going against Bloomy and the other guys. He said, this will be like watching Top Gun on your mobile phone. Same movie, wrong place. But yeah, and he does say, what's your take? And he's had a lot of very good interaction on his comments. Jan Frodeno also jumping in, saying tomorrow is another day, with a rather funny video. Audio choice as well with that.
Yeah, well, we've got one here from David McNamee before the announcement. Like we say, it was the announcement of where still yet to be actually heard. But he says, I always thought that my holiday stroke training camp to Nice in 2020 would come in useful. Could it be for the 2023 Ironman World Champs? If so, please feel free to contact me for my insider knowledge on where to find the best croissants, best cheese fondue locations, romantic wine spots, museums worth visiting. We'll need to ask the missus, as I cycled instead, and post-dinner ice cream spots. Always count on McNamee for a bit of comedy there. But he has then, a few days after that, when he did hear the news that it's definitely split, made another post.
Yeah, he said, so my plans for Kona domination will need to wait another year. For those that are asking, mainly my mum, my thoughts on the new two-country format. I'm a big fan of Kona. The race, the special Kona vibe, the traditions such as meeting half the people racing for a swim at the pier each morning, plus the poke bowls. And he goes on, he says, it was right for the females to go first. I actually believe the new format could help grow the sport, especially outside the US. I mean, there's so many points there. What's your thoughts on this?
I don't know, I've listened to a lot and I've kind of got bombarded, and I'm trying to keep an open mind on it and not just see it as a money-grabbing move to try and get more athletes there, because there are some positives, but I personally feel like this first year is going to be a real shock, mainly for athletes who've already kind of qualified and actually started planning and want to go to Kona. This is obviously the males I'm talking about mainly, that, you know, as an age group athlete, it's such a massive thing to get there, and they've done that qualification. Yeah, you're off to Kona. You've been telling your friends you're going to Kona. And to have that change last minute, I think once we get used to it, it won't be so hard.
So I have heard, again, not confirmed, that if you qualified this year, you'd be able to postpone to next year, so you're still getting Kona, but I don't know that for sure. So don't fact check me on that one. But yeah, I do think this opens up opportunities, because Kona is such a tough race, and conditions do suit certain athletes and not others. So could you see, say, a Rudy von Berg, for instance, performing really well in Nice? So you'd almost get different athletes performing well in Nice one year, then in France the next year. Obviously, are they going to change location year in, year out?
And then will it look like only every 2 years is the real World Championships? Are people so set on Kona that will stay as the real one? We saw St George obviously very different, having 2 Ironmans in a year.
You say that, but then you often think that as a pro athlete during your career, but how often do you just look back at the results and go, I was 2-time Ironman World Champion or whatever? Obviously I'm not, but you would, and that's cool. So people would take that opportunity and go for it, as you would as an age grouper as well.
Yeah, I think it just is going to take some... It'll help once we know exactly the situation of whether you can choose which year you do and where it is, and then I guess we have another discussion about it.
I think we should, Heather. Yes, we'll do that. Moving on, Lionel Sanders was taking part in Ironman 70.3 Indian Wells this weekend, along with Sam Long, and we will get onto his results very shortly, but it sounds like he struggled a bit with the cold water there, didn't he?
Potentially. Something didn't really work out on his swim, but he had been doing some prep by the look of this post. He says, I've begun my cold water desensitization training in my backyard. It's 57 Fahrenheit. I'm not sure quite what that is, but sounds cold for Indian Wells. As you can see, it's not going well. Yeah.
We'll get
that was before the race. So
yeah, also Hayden Wild, obviously last weekend we had Abu Dhabi, the WTCS Grand Final, and sadly he lost that top spot for the overall standings. He placed 6th overall, sorry, 6th in the race and 3rd overall in the standings. And then just a few days later, he posted up this video of him testing positive for COVID, and actually saying, having travelled for 2 or 3 years now with COVID going on and hasn't got COVID once, he thought he was special. And he's finally got it, sadly. So yeah, best of luck with the recovery. Right, now for the Tri news, and starting off, in response to, I guess, Gustav Eden's big platform carbon shoes that he wore to his win at the Ironman World Championships, the triathlon world has responded with some new rules on the use of carbon shoes in competition. So the World Triathlon Executive Board has just released an update to its competition rules that will come into effect from the 1st of January. And they kind of follow suit with World Athletics. So basically banning shoe prototypes, so they must be available to the public for purchase for at least 4 months prior. Their midsole depth must be no more than 40 mil, and they must only have one carbon plate within them. And as we've seen in the past, Ironman have suggested they'll likely follow the World Triathlon rules. So we should see that taking place in Ironman as well.
I think it just needed to happen, and otherwise it was going to. It's kind of fun to watch, but really we want fair sport, and
and we do believe Gustav may not be the only one, that there may be some athletes using the Adidas Prime shoes. So,
I think there have been a few, and we've seen some incredible runs, but it'll just be interesting to see if the run times carry on getting faster with these new rules, but hopefully so, and I think it's good to get it in nice and early. There's another new rule come out from World Triathlon on maternity and the ranking. So from when an athlete actually announces their pregnancy until 2 years after giving birth, their world ranking will be frozen. So that's just a really nice sort of conscientious thing of helping female athletes to continue their career whilst having a family.
Yeah, and I guess also another rule that's in response to the issues we saw at the Commonwealth Games with Hayden Wild and the chin strap on his helmet being undone or touched prior to him racking his bike. They have responded with a rule that says touching the helmet locking mechanism is now forbidden before the bike is racked. So you cannot hold your hand over it as you are racking the bike. You must only touch it as the bike is racked.
Details. Well, talking of rules, UCI have also brought out a new rule, which doesn't affect triathlon, but I thought was just quite interesting around their time trials. So before now, the support car was allowed to follow 10 metres behind a time trial athlete. And they've moved that to 15, as they say that actually teams have been trying to take advantage of this aero gain that you can have by having a car that close. In fact, they've actually had team cars following with 6 to 8 bikes on the roof, of which many weren't even time trial bikes, and as if one time trial athlete is going to need all of those. All they were doing was trying to increase the advantage or the assistance that an athlete might get by being in front. So they've taken that back to 15 metres, which apparently will make a significant percentage difference and basically give the athlete no benefit of the kind of back to front draft with the aerodynamics, the way it spins around.
It must sound really odd, but essentially by having this large surface area behind, it's essentially forcing and pushing the air, which is therefore going to
reduce the drag.
Exactly, essentially. We saw it, I think, years ago. There was a particular cyclist, and someone will be able to comment and leave this down below, but a cyclist in particular where there were literally like 10 cars lined up behind. It's a very famous image, and he was literally getting pushed so fast along the road in comparison to other athletes. So yeah, it's an interesting bit of science, and great they've done this. Now moving on, also Global Tri Awards, which we've discussed on the show before, have got their awards in January. We're awaiting the shortlist, is coming any day now, but they have announced their judges for the Tri Awards, and it's an interesting panel. We've got Tim Don, Emma Kate Libbury, Chelsea Burns, and a couple of people maybe not so familiar. Stéphane Diagana, who's a 400-metre hurdler from France, who apparently has a big interest in endurance sports, full stop, so is keen to be involved in this.
Yeah, they sound exciting. They are not to be confused with the Global Triathlon Network Awards, though. Those are different ones.
And now for What's the Tech? We've only got one bit of tech this week, but an interesting bit of tech, particularly for triathletes. Now, Classified, who we have featured at Eurobike before with their PowerShift wireless shifting system, have had a serious cash injection. Now, basically, their technology puts shifting into the hub of the rear wheel. Now, you still have the cassette as you ordinarily would, but it allows you to do away with the front mech and essentially have that gear ratio within the rear hub. It's really, really smart, and obviously more aero. Now they've had a 22 million euro injection from active partners who are also the same investors behind Rafa and Evans Cycles, which obviously is going to not only help them as a company, but it shows that such a big investor has a lot of confidence in this brand and it being successful. So I think we may be seeing more of this very soon.
Interesting. On to race news, and even though we're at the back end of the season, there was still quite a lot going on over the weekend, including the big prize purse at Clash Daytona, $100,000 up for prize money, $15,000 to the win, and actually paying 8 deep. So it attracted a pretty strong field. Now, unique distances, I need to just reference that, a 1.6k swim, 60k bike, and a 13.2k run. So kind of an unusual distance there, but it was certainly fast racing. We had Angelica Olmo ran away with the win. Not by a huge margin, but she won in a time of 2 hours, 40 minutes, 11 seconds. It was Sarah Perez-Sella at 2 hours, 40:39, and then third place went to Julie Deron.
Yeah, well, it was Tom Bishop that really laid the hammer down in the men's race. He led off the bike, and whilst he looked strong, the chasers were coming in hot. And it was Vincent Louis that first passed him to go on to take the win. And then Yao Pierre, who took second, and then Jason West in third, with Tom Bishop sadly having to settle for fourth, but I think he was still pretty chuffed with that result given the year or so that he's had. So well done to all of them, but particularly so to Jackson Laundry, who not only raced in Clash Daytona on Friday, but then again on Sunday in Indian Wells.
Yeah, well, he was off the podium at Daytona, and his post straight after that looked disappointed. And then he managed to turn that around.
Oh, yeah.
At Indian 70.3 Wells, he ended up on the podium. So the men's results, well, we mentioned earlier the post from Lionel preparing for the cold water swim. Now, we sort of alluded to the fact that something didn't quite work out. Lionel finished fourth, so don't want to spoiler alert here, but swam 26 minutes 54. Now, if you bear in mind that him and Sam Long often battle it out the swim, Sam Long swam a 25:05. So I think either Sam had a very good swim for him, or Lionel had a terrible one, or a combination of
some of the
both.
fastest swimmers were more around the 22, 23 minute mark. So.
Yeah. Not sure.
Not great.
Yeah, maybe the cold water, we can blame that.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving to the rest of the race, obviously Lionel was out of it with that swim, but it was Sam Long who actually managed to have a very strong bike and strong run and finished in a time of 3 hours, 34:34. That's actually 10 minutes ahead of Jackson Laundry. But Jackson Laundry was second, only 2 days after racing at Daytona, and then Bert Arnott's bringing out the podium in third.
Yeah, on to the women's race. It was Paula Finlay that took the win there, ahead of Tamara Jewett, who had a phenomenal run. She ran 1:14:05, which actually is faster than a lot of the men.
Almost as fast as Sam Long.
Almost as fast as Sam Long, faster than Jackson Laundry, who finished second in the men's race there. And, well, considering Paula Finlay's run split was 1:20:07, she finished around 50 seconds
just
ahead.
Under 50 seconds.
Yeah, just under 50 seconds ahead. That must have been a stressful final couple of kilometres for Paula Finlay. So impressive performances by both of them, and third place went to Danielle Lewis.
Yeah. Well, then we also had Ironman Western Australia, which we mentioned earlier. So the men's results, it was won by Max Newman. It's actually an all-Australian podium. Max Newman ahead of Steve McKenna, and then Matt Burton in third. But Max Newman was told apparently around 8 minutes or so to the end that he was on track for getting the course record set by Alistair Brownlee last year. So he gave it absolutely everything. This is an Ironman we're talking about. He was 1 second off the course record. 1 second. Oh,
ouch.
Painful.
That is painful. Women's race was won by Sarah Crowley in 8 hours 46, ahead of Els Visser and Lottie Wilms in third.
And then we also had Patagonman, an iron distance triathlon down in Patagonia, and it was a real fight on the women's race, and it was won by Brit Caroline Livesey ahead of a fellow Brit, Maggie Rush, and then in third place it was Celista Castro.
Yeah, it sounded like a big fight for the win on the women's side, but less so on the men's. Obviously very competitive still, but Ben Hoffman went away with the win there. So impressive to see him crossing over to X-Tri. Okay, now moving on to photos and videos, some of the stuff that you guys have sent in to us, which you too can do using our photo uploader. Link is on screen right now, or you can find that down in the description below. Anything triathlon related, photos of you racing, training, your pain cave, stuff like this. From Steve, who has sent in a photo of his son, Soren Bang, with himself, his wife, and another son of his. So basically, Soren has raced Ironman St. George, which then became the World Championships, 8 weeks after his 18th birthday. And basically it's become a bit of a family tradition to try and get their family members racing straight after the 18th birthday. So basically making them the youngest competitors on course, which is quite impressive.
Well, the story develops beyond that because actually Soren's brother Stephen was also racing and had a bad day, had a mechanical, and apparently had to wait about an hour or so for the mechanic to fix his bike and was stuck in one gear, and St George is a pretty hilly course, so it was a tough day out. However, unbeknown to him, Soren was closing the gap towards the end, and within the last 800 metres, they actually caught each other up and managed to cross the finish line together at what had become a World Championship. So just a really cool story.
That is very cool.
Yeah,
very
like
good.
it.
A long story, but a great story. This next one comes in from Jeff, and it's just a simple pain cave photo. I feel like we need more of a story for this one.
I know, I also want to see Jeff's face. He's got a head down working hard, isn't he?
No, but he does say he's in base training phase ahead of Ironman 70.3 Mont Tremblant. So, yeah, great work. It looks like a fantastic pain cave. I mean, it's got everything you need, hasn't it? Weights, turbo, treadmill, Zwift, bike on the water. I mean, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, this next photo is even more basic, but it has got beautiful blue sky and blue oceans and palm trees. And it's sent in by Parks, and it says, Oceanside, California, the weekly swim at the location of the 70.3 Oceanside. I mean, having been there, I'm very envious that you get to swim there weekly. That's lovely.
Cool. Next one from Reese from Downton in Salisbury, just down the road from us. Said, entered my local half marathon and managed to come third fastest male, but found out that the woman that smashed all of us was none other than Simone Mitchell, who won the Ironman Wales event in 2019. So, yeah,
wow,
congrats to
you.
you.
Well done to her for beating everybody. Very cool. Our final one, we've got another nice story here. So let's, put your feet up and listen to this one. This is sent in by Eric, and he says the location of the picture is Hood River, Oregon, USA. So since you mentioned you were short of photo submissions, I'll share a photo of the time I swam with the Collins family. He's in the middle, by the way. He said, for 2019's annual Royal Webster Cross-Channel Swim, a swim across the Columbia River from Washington to Oregon, I was randomly assigned to the 10-person pod that included Judy Collins and her extended family. John was there, but not swimming due to recovering from a cold. I did not know who I was standing with until a gentleman, Judy's brother, looked at the Ironman shirt I was wearing and asked if I knew Judy Collins, to which I regrettably replied, the singer. Judy turned around laughing and said, no, as in John and Judy Collins, who started Ironman. Then they had a great conversation, ferried across the river and swam back to Oregon together afterwards. And yeah, the family invited him for a warm coffee and basically just had a nice chat about the beginnings of Ironman.
I thought you giving me a little nighttime story there.
Well, I was kind of getting into it, and I thought I was actually going on a little bit long, people would be falling asleep. But
oh, it's lovely. It was a great story, though. As I said at the start, though, do send in your photos or videos using that photo uploader, link below. But that was a great story to end with.
And now it's time for GTN's caption competition. And last week we had this photo of Mark whispering sweet nothings into James's ear. Well, we don't know what he was whispering, but you guys had some good suggestions. The first one here from Aaron Hyman, 1977, says, someone beat Lucy Charles out of the water.
Nice. Busy Baz, shh, don't tell anyone, but I've found some accommodation in Lati.
Well done. Shane Richards, 5906 says, that wasn't electrolyte drink in your bottle.
Savage Pro, all along, I'm a big Rim Brakes fan. Shh.
Are you? Our runner-up is Andrew Larry, 523. Mark, did you hear I'm doing a naked 5K? Wouldn't surprise me.
Might be. But our winner is Toon 8552. I don't tell James this, but I really did sandbag that first effort.
I reckon James put this caption in, to be honest.
I didn't, all right. Everyone stop this. I didn't sandbag the first one.
We'll never know. Anyway, congratulations. Do get in touch and we will get a GTN cap sent out to you. But for your chance to win a GTN cap, we've got this photo from the Abu Dhabi World Triathlon Grand Final.
Yeah, do your best. Leave your captions in the comments section down below. But that is it for the show this week. As always, we've got lots coming up, including Runner versus Cyclist Volcano Edition up Teide in Tenerife. It was pretty epic. I mean, 3.5 hours worth of all-out effort.
Mark was running, I was cycling. We're not going to tell you anymore. I don't want to relive it right now because it was traumatic.
It was big, yeah. It was very big.
So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. Getting very close to Christmas now, so if you want a present for your triathlon fan and your family, then go check it out. We've got jumpers, all sorts on there. And if you want something to watch right now, well, we've got TT versus road bike on screen. Remember, give us a like if you've enjoyed the show.